Okay, we're going to end in a moment. Just invite each of the candidates to make a final statement. And as Simon said, you behaved very well, but please, if we just allow you to speak without interruption, and from the floor as well, please. Up to 3 minutes, and we'll start with Ian, then Becky, Emma, Darren, and Star.
Thank you. Well, folks, we said in 2005 we would raise the tax threshold to £10,000. We went further, and we're going to take up to £12,500. We said then that we would, if you like, throw ourselves on the altar of the coalition government and do what we had to do to get this country back on its feet. It's getting there. We are getting towards a situation now where we can look towards the sunny uplands. There's a lot more to do. I don't think we would join another coalition. I am concerned about what would happen after this general election, by the way, with the horse trading that goes on. I'm not convinced that there's going to be a clear decision to be made at this general election, and it's going to be one of the most interesting, yet at the end of the day, probably one of the most disappointing general elections we will have seen in recent years. The only answer to that is for there to be a fair voting system, and I look forward to other parties joining me in that in due course. As I say, we've done our best in the coalition. What we tried to do is to achieve social justice and fairness, but at the same time keep the economy going. I would like to take that stage a bit further with you all. I'm a local bloke. I've lived here for the last 45 years. I enjoy this city, and I think I can do well for this city. So please, place your trust in me.
Becky.
Oxfam tells us that the combined wealth of the richest 1% of people will overtake that of the other 99% next year, unless the current trend of rising inequality is checked. So we really do need to do something about that and tackle the tax avoidance. Voting Green is not a wasted vote. We need to break away from the current system that serves only the wealthy and corporations. Both Labour and the Conservatives have voted for another 30 billion in cuts, and only the Green Party is offering this genuine alternative. Unlike the Liberal Democrats, the Green Party will keep its promises to our students for free university education, with debts wiped and a brighter future for all. Change arises from conviction, and it's time to stop voting in fear. I urge you all to go online and look at our manifesto and our clear costings. We don't have to accept any further cuts or an unfair society, and you can change this on May the 7th by voting Green. Thank you.
Emma.
You face a big choice at this election, and I disagree with Ian. I think it's going to be a very interesting election. I think it's going to be one of the closest elections that we've seen for quite some time. And a Labour government is committed to balancing the books in a fair way as soon as possible within the 5 years of the next Parliament, but not in an extreme way, not in a way that threatens the NHS, not in a way that threatens our vital public services. But to bring down the deficit, we also need better living standards, because one of the reasons that the Tory Lib Dem government has failed their own target of eliminating the deficit is precisely because the kinds of jobs that have been created have been very insecure and not very well paid, and therefore people haven't been paying enough tax into the exchequer to bring down the deficit. So there is a simple truth that the Labour Party is conveying to people at this general election, that Britain succeeds only when working people and working families succeed. And that's why we have unashamedly put living standards at the heart of our general election campaign. Not just in terms of making sure that work pays by enforcing the national minimum wage, but also increasing the national minimum wage to £8 an hour by 2019, but also tackling exploitative zero-hour contracts when people don't know from one day to the next, from 1 week to the next, whether they're going to get the hours they need to pay their rent and to pay the basics to make ends meet. We will also reform the energy market to make sure that there's a competitive energy market so people aren't getting ripped off by the big six energy companies. we're going to scrap the bedroom tax, and we're going to give those people who are renting from a private landlord a much fairer deal. We need a sensible and sensitive debate about immigration in our country, and we've been clear that we have not always got this right. We need to bear down on illegal immigration, and we'll do that by increasing the number of border guards, by increasing them by an extra 1,000. We will only make sure that EU migration is fair by saying that benefits to migrants would be restricted, and you'd have to be paying into the system for 2 years before that happens. But vitally, we need to make sure that employers stop undercutting and exploiting local people and migrants, frankly, by making sure we enforce the minimum wage and we will make exploitation illegal. Finally, we are the party of the NHS. We created the NHS. We will invest what needs to be invested in the NHS, and we need to see the NHS both locally and nationally not going backwards but forwards under a Labour government.
Yes. I think, what we've managed to do is pull ourselves back from the brink, and the Conservative Labour government, the coalition, has managed to get us to a point where we're the fastest growing economy in the developed world. We've not done everything right, but we've got a head of steam, we've got a momentum going, and we're going in the right direction. And employment, I still believe, is the key to it. It's getting people employed, getting people working, getting them that self-esteem back, providing for the families, getting them into housing with the incentives that we've got going for, right to buy, for example, and help to buy, and starter homes and so on that we're doing, and those sorts of things, so that you can get your family and your community together and actually provide for your family and community. So if we went to Labour, which is a Labour-led government, which is the alternative, I think we'll just make a retrograde step. We'll go back to how it was before 2010. The other point I'd like to make is that, what about local government? 30 odd years we've had Labour local government here. In Wolverhampton North East, we've got 3 councillors in each of the 7 wards, so 21 Labour councillors. And I think what happens there is they all follow the party line. There's no innovation, and more importantly, no change. So if you want to do anything, I would suggest that we've got 7 good candidates that are going to be putting their names forward for May the 7th as well. So what about just thinking about just mixing up a little bit and having a few other fresh ideas coming in to your local council on May the 7th. Thank you.
And lastly, Star.
Okay, at this election, you've got a choice. And it's your vote to give. Now, if you choose to vote for me, as a person, I can guarantee you that the House of Commons will be a lot blooming livelier. If you think Dennis Skinner's got it going on, just wait till I get there. I would be the voice that you need. Because for so long, all you've had is a succession of people doing exactly the same things, promising promises after promises, and not actually standing up for what you want. If you vote for me, you are my boss, I am your representative, and I will do whatever it takes to get those things out and into the debating chamber so that we can move forward together as a society and make life better for ourselves. Thank you.